10 years back, if you become an entrepreneur, people thought something is wrong with you. I've had that problem for several years because people said you are in such a great role in a big company. Why would you do that? Something is wrong with you. Or they thought maybe the company fired me. I mean, there were different people who thought different things. They never thought that it is by my own choice. It is not somebody is forcing me to do it. So that was then. But now the expectation is that if you are family and friends, I'm talking about, that if you're an entrepreneur, you will be a billionaire. Now the expectation is gone the other way around. Both are bad because you need to let the entrepreneur be what he is.
Hello everyone, Ashok here. Thank you for tuning in to this very first episode of Indian Startup Stories. Today we have a very special guest, Ravikiran Annaswamy, a business leader, serial entrepreneur, startup coach, vice president and global board member in IEEE, CEO and co-founder of Numocity Technologies, a company which deals with electric mobility platform for EV fleet chargers, battery swapping, smart grid integration. They have been featured in top 5 startups in electric vehicle segment at IoT Day Conference 2019 by TIE Bangalore. Apart from leading Numocity, Ravi holds various tags like co-founder of Deccan Institute of Innovation and Design, co-director at Founder Institute Bangalore, mentor and coach at Numa Bangalore, charter member at TIE Bangalore, thought leader and a speaker at numerous international business conferences. He holds MBA from IIM Bangalore, a passionate photographer and an avid book reader. That's a long list. In this episode, he talks about how it all started, what are they creating, how COVID has fueled more business, how he manages time boxing, handling multiple roles, also other important insights like incubation platforms, how investment funding works for a startup, also on what could go wrong with entrepreneurs personally and for businesses. So let's jump in. Hi Ravi, thank you for coming on the Indian Startup Stories today.
Thank you, Ashok. Thank you for inviting me for this. And also, it's my pleasure to be talking to you today.
My pleasure. Ravi, please tell our listeners what you're creating in Numocity.
Yeah, so Numocity is in a very interesting intersection of electric vehicles. When people think about electric vehicles, it's like a elephant and a five-blind men, right? I mean, everybody thinks of an automobile to be the only thing which is changing. But when you look at electric vehicles, automobile is only a part of it, where we convert them into battery-driven vehicles, the motor changes and all of that. And then comes how do you fuel them? So the electricity is the most important aspect because you need to fuel them. Unlike the IC engines where you go to a gas station, now you're going to an electric point where you have to charge your vehicle, like a battery, a mobile battery or a laptop battery. You need to charge your vehicle. And then what you realize is all these vehicles and the electric points are all connected now. So they end up being IoT networks because all of them are now spending a lot of data. And then you also end up now realizing that it is also a big data problem. You're getting a lot of data, a lot of workflows coming in, and you need to stitch cross-industry workflows. And that is where Numocity comes in as a middleware platform. Like in many other industries, we are kind of a software cloud-based middleware platform, which connects the automobile parts, which connects the grid parts, which connects all the required components in the whole ecosystem into a common workflow and enable people to use it in a very seamless way. So one of the use case we mainly work on is what we call as energy as a service. So we ensure that the energy or electricity is provided to electric vehicles in the best possible way. So as a user, you should not have a difficulty of getting energy to your vehicle to move on. And how to make it easier, how to make everything work in the background so that for user, as a rider, as a driver, it should be seamless for you. As seamless as going and just filling your tank is what our vision is. And that's what Numocity does. So we are a cloud-based software platform. We call it a middleware platform because we connect multiple components into one workflow.
Great. It's a complete platform as I see in energy as a service, as India has already started adopting to electric vehicles with increase in OEM platforms and quite a lot of IoT startups. It's great that Numocity is playing a big role in this ecosystem.
Absolutely.
Great. So how did it all started, Ravi? What was the spark moment, the idea of Numocity?
So I would look at it as two different from points where we converged on Numocity. I always believe you can always have ideas when you're looking at any opportunity or anything, but customer validation kind of nudges you and pushes you to do what you have to do. So way back in 2017, we were working on an assignment where we were talking with a lot of companies to figure out what would be the EV landscape in India in future. This was way back in 2017. So we did a study where we used to interact with many different people, mainly the OEMs, the component makers, the grid players, policy makers, and all of that. And here it was purely from a research interest. This was not to start Numocity or not to do anything. We were just doing it from a pure research interest. Me and my co-founder, we both were doing that, and then we realized that was one where we realized that there was a lot of systemic thinking required. A lot of systems were completely desperate. They were not talking to each other. Everybody were talking about their piece, but nobody was talking about how to make everything work. So that's where our second point came in, where we all had a very rich telecom experience, worked with telecom systems for probably 2 decades, and had a very good understanding of what went right there, what went wrong there, and also the infrastructure building exercise. How did it happen? When you look at telecom towers are very synonymous to EV charging points. Telecom connectivity is very synonymous to what is going on here. The user experience in 2000 for our mobile phone is very synonymous to what is happening with an electric vehicle here. We just found a parallel. We could see the parallels which others were not seeing because people were looking at it only as electric vehicle. Now suddenly we pulled a parallel to say, hey, this is exactly what happened 20 years back, 18 years back with telecom industry in India. And we presented this in many of the forums, and there was an aha moment by many people in the crowd and saying that, hey, this is a very interesting way to look at the same thing, and you guys seem to understand all of that. Why are you not doing anything about it? I mean, you are talking everything.
Yeah,
Why are you not doing something? I mean, I was running another company which was not doing electric vehicles, but we were mainly on the IoT side. So when we brought the IoT angle, when we brought the software, the system thinking of how it needs to be done, then we built something as a first version of a product in a short period, in some 3 months. More of a what we call as an MVP. It is not a full blown product, but something which demonstrates what we were talking about from an energy flow point of view. So we presented this in Elakrama in 2018, which is India's largest electrical exhibition. Nearly 1 lakh people or more than 1 lakh people come there. We just demonstrated. I mean, we didn't have any other intention. We thought we get feedback from people to say what it is. But interestingly, we got shortlisted as the top 10 startup of electrical world. And then all the large OEMs, I mean, all the big biggies who are doing the charging infrastructure landed up trying to see what we have built, trying to understand what we have done and saying, hey, can you work with us? So it is a big validation. I mean, that's a good starting point. And that's when we said, hey, it's worth doing what we are talking. Though where we are right now is still a prototype or an MVP, but it is worth doing because the big companies are coming and saying, can we work with you? And we are not even a company. I mean, it's just a concept at that time. So that immediately helped us to go towards building this company because we knew the market needed it. We knew what we were talking makes sense. And we also knew that there are customers who will take it quite soon if we get it right.
that's nice. Yeah, and also very early, you started in 2017, but in 2019, you have been featured as top five startups by TI Bangalore in IoT Day conference. That's an exciting thing. So you made it really fast in 2 years coming into that top list.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, we were also the top 30 companies of your story in 2019. So it was quite a good experience trying to be one of the early companies. It has its own challenges. Being the first mover, you may not do everything right because you are doing it for the first time. Because the ones who follow you will pick up and do much better because they know all the challenges what you already face. So we were one of the first movers, early movers. So, and we have done everything from scratch in the Indian market. What I mean is, there was nothing else as a precedent to say such a product existed. So, we have done
Yeah.
absolutely from scratch.
Okay, that's interesting. Actually, you started with the parallel concept and you have taken it to the EV. Current scenarios like you have the vehicles with lot of parts, but when you think of electric vehicle, the number of parts is getting reduced, and you have a different challenges coming together. How do you integrate and all these things? 2017 to till date, right? How has the transition been, and since the inception till now, can you share some stats on how it started and where we stand now?
Yeah, so like I said, we started off with an early demonstrator where the customers gave us very good feedback. But immediately after that, it was a good learning for us in terms of looking at how the market reacts to this. The first year went in a lot of tenders, lot of it was very early market. There was hardly any electric vehicles, none of the vehicles you see now were launched. There is only one vehicle, which was E2O, nothing else in the market. So we were talking closely with OEMs, we were talking with everybody. The first year went in just a concept validation because there was nothing on the market. So we really couldn't experience anything from the market. It was all conceptually validating. 2018 went in that. 2019 became more interesting because the vehicles started increasing. A lot of infrastructure came up. So we now are no longer a concept, but we were actually working with real equipment, real systems. But it was a little tough journey because the whole ecosystem was evolving. Nobody was ready with everything being standardized, everything working well. So I think it took a year for us to build different things, additional things, multiple things to make systems very robust. And that was also the year where we also looked at another parallel concept, which was not in 2017 and 18, but by 19 it was a concept, what we call as battery swappable systems, which is conceptually doing the same what we want to do, but now instead of plugging your vehicle into a socket, now you just come and replace your battery like an LPG cylinder. Or when you go to the vehicles which have liquid petroleum gas, I mean LNG cylinders, which was actually taken off in Delhi and others, and you can swap them.
Replaceable
uh,
batteries.
Battery swappable systems where instead of charging, now you can just come and remove your battery and move on. But that worked only for two-wheelers and three-wheelers. When the fixed charging was evolving, we also became a major platform for battery swappable systems. So we built another platform which with all these workflows, but for a totally different use case, which was now swapping batteries. But the end-to-end customer experience is still the same. I want energy for my vehicle. How do I get it? Either you can charge in multiple ways, and our platform helps you to do that, or you come with your battery, we give you a new battery. So 2019 gave us a different spin, and suddenly out of one use case in our platform, now we had two use cases, which was still doing the same thing, but in a very different way. And I mean, of course, some of the awards also came for that because we were one of the very early platforms to demonstrate that the whole thing works and how to get it working. So that made us even more richer in terms of what we can do. 2020 has been a good and a bad year. So I think for us, we were hoping a huge market surge in 2020.
Yeah,
We
COVID began.
were a very positive note with all this happening, with both battery swap and with chargers coming up. We were gearing up for a big year, but we lost, I would say, 6 months went completely done uh, because I think I mean, country was shut. I think let's face it. It has nothing to do with us or any industry. The whole country, whole world was shut for 6 months. But we made a very good use of it at that period. We ended up reaching out to everybody sitting at home, making calls to every potential customer, which on a normal course when we were running around with business was difficult to get them. Now everybody were at home, and we were
Yeah.
getting a quick call with most people in most companies. So almost
Okay.
4 months probably we did every day four video demos, online demos, and I was more busy than ever. I was doing demos 4 times a day to everybody in the country. We presented to almost anybody and everybody whom we wanted to talk to. We did.
Okay.
That started showing results from August when the country opened up. We suddenly have a surge of a good number of customers in the last 6 months, and year end has been even fantastic. More people coming up. In fact, even in the last 1 week, we've been extremely busy with some 3, 4 customers coming in just in 1 week. That's been fantastic end of the year, because beginning of the year we were really in a bad shape, not knowing what happens.
You were demoing throughout the year. You are busy in video demos and all these things. So how was that to get the first customer? Can you talk about that experience?
Yeah, so like I said, for us, the early customers came way back already in 2018 and 19. but all of them were, let's say, not with major plans. I mean, they were also testing waters because it's a very early concept. 2020 is where we really had the first customers really hitting the ground and demonstrating and not knowing whether it's a customer and us, the end user like you started using it. That is, anybody who wants to use electric vehicle now is using our systems independent of either of us. I mean, we are a B2B platform, so somebody is using us, but actually it is you, somebody like you, Ashok, who's plugging in his vehicle and charging, and he suddenly tells you what works and what doesn't work, because his problems are very, very different, because he doesn't know how to plug in. It is not the technology. Realize
Yeah.
that the problem starts at a very different
Right.
level, not really at the technology
Right.
level. So that's been a fantastic learning, because with the first customers, we really realized that tech is only one part of it, but there are a lot of other things which is beyond tech, which you need to fix before the tech starts to play a role. I think that learning we have really adopted in the last 6 months now. With every new customer, we are able to tell them, hey, manage these things, because you just have to manage this, because otherwise customers don't know. I mean, we have figured out very simple things like what poster or what sticker to stick at a remote unmanned stations. The charging stations are like your fuel pumps, but assume there is nobody there. It will be on a highway where there is nobody. You just have to go and do everything yourself. And our people, though we are very tech savvy with respect to our mobile phone and 4G connection, but when you find a new equipment, we are a kind
Yeah.
of lost. We really don't know what to do, because these are big equipment with a lot of display buttons and everything, and you're not used to going and fueling your own vehicle anytime, because somebody does it all these years. Now you have
Yeah.
to do everything, and there is a fear of huge current, right? These are all 15 kilowatt, 50 kilowatt heavy electric vehicles, I mean chargers. So you don't want any spark or anything to happen. So we have now made very simple posters, stickers to stick around, which has nothing to do with tech, but that eases the way the person uses the phone. I mean,
Right.
he has to use a mobile and his car and the charger to make things work. So we've got that working very well now. So when we are
Right.
scaling, it makes very good sense. But even now, we face challenges. For instance, sometimes the network goes down. So what happens?
Yeah.
Sometimes the power goes down in that location. The car is connected to the charger and the power goes down. Now the user panics. He doesn't know what to do. Or the network goes down and the displays don't show exactly. He's seeing something at the spot, but his mobile phone says something else because there is no network there. So he panics because he doesn't know what is going on. So all these are ground level challenges which India will go through for maybe another year, because as this network grows, more people use it, more cars, and then I think it will be a time. This is similar to what happened with the payments like Paytm. When they all came with the first QR code, people didn't know what to do. And if you notice, the first time the notes were banned, demonetization, everybody figured out suddenly, every common man learned how to use a QR code scanner and to make a payment.
For us, right? For everyone, even for the grocery shop, we all got used to the QR code scanning and
Yeah,
stuff.
but
Yeah.
if you remember, the trigger happened in mass adoption with a different event, which was a demonetization, where people figured out.
Yeah.
So probably it will take another year or one such event where everybody is now suddenly forced to use an electric vehicle, and then India, in a mass way, will learn how to use systems.
Right. We are all got used to the customer support where people are there helping us for
Exactly.
any the normal equipments that we buy. We are so used to that physical touch and human connection. So it takes time.
Yeah, but these will be now unmanned. India will become probably move towards what Europe and US have been for a long time. That is, you fill your vehicle. There is nobody is going to do it, because
Yeah.
some of them in the cities, urban centers might still have people around to help you out. But most of this equipment will also come on highways. And when it comes on highways, this will all end up being unmanned. So it's going to be a transformation. A lot of people will learn how to use this equipment over the next 1 or 2 years.
Yeah, Ravi. Definitely, we are going to experience those changes soon. Can you talk about some of your early days challenges? Any nightmare days?
Yeah, so like I said, it's being an early product. Many a times we go with what our understanding of the systems are and what we are doing, but only when we really physically see a product, we then realize that the interfaces will be very different. You need to figure out how to make things work. One from a systems point of view, and second, like I said, from a user point of view. That is the user experience of the end user, the way it works. Because whatever we are building is not for systems to talk to each other. That's only a part of it. But actually, it's about an end user who's an average Indian user who's going to use it, not a tech savvy user. I think our first issues and first nightmares have been how to ensure that people understand what needs to be done. Like I was just explaining to you, we are not used to those self-serve mode of using any of the bigger equipment in public places. So our first nightmares were when people landed up at the site and they just didn't know what to do, and they do things wrong, and then the systems misbehave because they're not expected to do it that way. So this learning has been, I wouldn't call it a nightmare in a way, but a very eye opener to understand not just the technology aspects but the human behavior aspects, because a lot of systems work in different way and people use it in very different ways. Though our intended use, we think it's going to be used in this particular way, in a particular one flow of use case, but I think all of us try it out in multiple ways. So that's been a big learning, how to understand, make systems work for everybody and be foolproof from that angle, and not so much from the technology angle. That can be fixed, that can still be, these are systems talking to each other. You can have interfaces, you can have APIs, protocols to make things work. But when it comes from human centricity and trying to see what works for them, what doesn't work for them, I think that's where the biggest learning has been, that we need to make any system actually very, very intuitive and user friendly for the end person. And if he can use it, then I think you've cracked the whole flow. Then everything becomes okay.
That's nice. Coming to the funding, Numocity, when it got started, you had all the fundings or you had challenges actually approaching to the investors, because you also being a serial entrepreneur and investor, how anyone should approach an investor, and how did you handle it in Numocity?
Yeah, so till we started Numocity, I'm one of those biggest proponents of a bootstrapping of a company in the early stages. I don't think it makes any sense to go to an investor very early. I mean, that's always been my advice. So that if you are able to do things in a very frugal way till a point that you're actually able to demonstrate your product and viability and scalability, you should be bootstrapped. So at least for nearly 2 years, we were bootstrapped. So, which means we kept our burn very low. We had our own investments coming in. As founders, we invested, and at the same time, we also had a little different model of slightly different services led product development. That is, we were also working on few other things which flew in as revenues. We were using that to bootstrap ourselves to do the new innovation which was on Numocity. So what happened is, over a period of 2 years, we could build with a lot of freedom. As an innovator, we could scrap things, we could rebuild it, we could learn a lot of things, but all that was done by a bootstrapping method, which also means that we were very frugal. We had only as much as we want, as many people as we want, as many systems as we want, and we ensured that we come to a stage where we are in a kind of a growth stage or a product market fit stage, where we say that, hey, we know this is working in the market. And I think that's the time we realize that we now need capital to scale up. That is, we can't do it with the money we have or what we can invest. We need. So in a way, you could call it as angel investment happened by our own selves, by founders, and bootstrapping we did with a lot of other work we were doing. So that kind of fueled us into running the company for nearly 2 years without raising a fund. But for every entrepreneur, startup, or innovator, my advice is, uh, don't start going to investors on day one. That's not the way to do it. I mean, you need angel investment to start with. If you can fund yourself with what is called F&F, friends, family, and fools, in the beginning, you go and raise it yourself, because this is a little friendly capital, because they are your own people. They'll give you the funds. And of course, you will not get a large fund. You will get a limited fund. With that, if you can work very frugally to get your idea, what is called as a problem solution fit for the problem, can you get a validated solution and people say that, hey, this works. It may not scale, it may not become big, but it works, and people can actually prove that it works. That capital is sufficient, and you actually need a seed or a next round of capital only post that. So you should approach investors only when you have figured out all these things. But if you day one, if you go with a concept note and say, I want funding, the angel investment might not happen so easily, because there will be hundreds of questions saying, why this idea, why this problem, why you? Because you've not even done anything about it. Why should I give you even my initial 5 lakh or 10 lakh or 1 crore? It doesn't matter, whatever is the angel investment. Why would anybody give you the money when you've not even done anything about it? It's just an idea on a slide. Millions of ideas come every day on a slide, probably billions in India, but that doesn't mean anything. So, always an early work done by the entrepreneur on his own for 6 months to 1 year, with kind of a friendly capital, or no capital, or bootstrap yourself. It could be any one of them, depending on what life cycle you are in an entrepreneurial mode. Because there are some of the senior guys who probably have enough savings to invest of their own, and so you become your own first investor. But there are a lot of youngsters who may not have that money. But sometimes your friends and family, that is your parents, might fund you to do that. A lot of youngsters do that. Their parents fund and their friends and family fund them. Of course, there are some who probably have no access to funds, but they have a brilliant solution for a problem. For them, there are still a lot of possibilities. You can go to incubators, you can go to early funds who will give you some funds. But I would still say that you need to do the first stage of whatever an entrepreneur needs to do, the customer validation. You need to prove that it is a problem for somebody and there is a customer for it. You need to have the first MVP or the first early prototype done with your own effort, whether with capital, without capital. You need to do that. And once you prove these two, then the angel round or the seed round will follow slightly easily. I mean, I wouldn't say it's just that you do this and you will get the money. I'm not saying that, but it becomes a lot more easier for somebody to look at you and say, why am I giving you the money? If you look at it from the other side, it becomes fairly easier to understand. So only advice is, don't go with a first slide saying, I have a brilliant idea, give me money.
That doesn't work. Yeah.
A little bit invest your time and money into it. Then there is also a proof for somebody else to say that he's committed his time, his money,
Mhm.
and validated it. So I would bet on the entrepreneur as much as the idea, because most investors don't bet only on the idea or the problem. They also bet on the entrepreneur, because ideas can change. Entrepreneur is the one who will make it happen. So they also look at the entrepreneur. Has he taken the risk? Has he figured out how to do it? If you've not done
Mhm.
it, if you only have a slide, they would not bet on it.
Yeah, both the problem and the person who's handling it, right?
Exactly.
Matters.
Both are important. It's not just one which is important.
Yeah, that's true. So, what was the initial MVP that Numocity has built? Because it's bit into OEM segment and also the battery research.
Yeah. So there, like I said, we had two different products technically for the same problem. Uh, First MVP was, we made a very simple charger management system which can work with fixed big chargers. Where the best thing we did was, we made it with a very simple apps by which people can access it just standing outside the charger. So that required a lot of systems to be done in the backend, but it is a very simple user interface for people to figure it out. That this is the way you go in front of a physical charger. Your mobile can identify the charger and it can tell you what it can be done. And then you just have to press couple of buttons on your app, and via cloud, the physical big equipment in front of you starts to work. But it's more like you're controlling it as a remote from your own phone. I think that was the easiest one we did, simplest one. Of course, now it has become very complicated the way it works. On the battery swap, we made even very, very simple things, saying, hey, just bring the battery, just do a QR code scan or a barcode scan with a mobile phone, a manned station where you come, give it to him, he scans, he picks up, you scan, you pick up, and you move on. But then in the back end, all the transactions are done, and then there is a full system running where we know where the batteries are, who's got which battery. It was a very simple IoT problem from a problem point of view. But of course, now it's all automated. Now the systems are much, much more sophisticated. But the first versions, MVP, we built is very simple QR code, barcode based systems, and showed that the whole thing can run, and operationalize it and demonstrated that the whole thing can run. And these two were our early prototypes, but both have evolved into much bigger products right now.
That's nice. How are you managing like switching between multiple roles? Because you being an entrepreneur and also mentor and coach for various startups, you are holding a big position in IEEE. You are a chairman and now a global board member. And so, how is this time management, or you call time boxing, switching between multiple roles? Are you from entrepreneur family background or a different family background?
Yeah, sure, sure, sure. I'm not from a entrepreneurial background. We are a very regular middle class Bangalore family, so no entrepreneurial background anywhere in my family around the circles. But
Okay.
that apart, I mean that apart. So it's more of what I have done on my own. So that's where it comes into. Uh, Time boxing is something large corporates teach you in a very big way. When you work in the larger corporations in certain roles, you learn to time box yourself because many a times you pick up multiple responsibilities, multiple roles in a large company, and then you learn to give time to what is needed at what point of time in a day. So you know when to spend time on what. That kind of training, coaching, I would say, happened in my stint with Siemens and then in Nokia, where at one point I used to manage a lot of customers around the world, Asia, India, Middle East, Africa, China, customers all around. So across time zones, I could give priority to each one of my customer based on what they wanted, each one of the countries based on what they wanted. So kind of learned time boxing myself and doing it. And IEEE, I've been doing it for over 20 years. So it was nothing new right now. So I always had, that is what I call it as a kind of a small white box, which is in deep in your heart, where it's voluntary. You're not doing it for money, you're not doing it for fame, you're doing it for giving something back. So that box always existed. So loved interacting with students, loved sharing things with students. Always I used to keep that as my weekend box. That is work
Okay.
all the days, and Saturdays was committed for that I would give all my time on Saturdays to spreading knowledge, spending time. So kind of found this time management for a long time working well for me. So now as an entrepreneur, there are more boxes to be done. I mean, similarly,
Yeah.
many customers to manage, and also many products to manage. A lot of, I mean, there I call as, even as an entrepreneur, it's not only your customers, all your stakeholders become important. So you need to manage your customers, you need to manage your team and employees, you need to manage your financial resources, you need to manage your investors. They also need a lot of your attention because you need to update them, keep them abreast of what you're doing regularly.
Yeah.
Media, your marketing channels. There are multiple people you have to be time boxing with. So this over time becomes a kind of a habit. Then you realize that, see, each day I cannot do all of them. So I have my own time boxes to say, on a particular day, it's my finance day. So I clean up all my financial work which needs to be done on that day. There are, of course, every day is a customer day that I cannot avoid. Every day is a customer day. But one day is a corporate governance day where I figure out what all filings to be done with RBI, what needs to be done with somebody else, what documents have to be filed for board meeting. All of that is done on one particular day. So kind of time box myself, saying Tuesdays are for this, Thursdays are for this, Wednesdays are for this, and my late evenings go for IEEE. When I'm done with all of them, I end up spending a lot of time, and my weekend, usually Saturdays and Sundays, I give it out to more volunteering, which has nothing to do with my daily work. So kind of you need to find your box sometimes which grows big. Sometimes if there is a customer issue that takes most of your time, then you give your attention there. Don't worry about another box because that can wait.
For all the 7 days.
Yeah, I mean, as an entrepreneur, you work all 7 days, all 24 hours. I mean, there is customers are talking even at night, 11, 12. So there is nothing which stops you. You can't say, I won't speak to you because I can't. So
Right.
you have to manage. Sometimes it works. It's a 7 day job. I mean, if you're an entrepreneur, you're not looking at a corporate job, 9 to 7 or 9 to 8. It's 24/7 full time job. I think you have to be on the toes all the time.
It's quite challenging to play the time boxing role.
Yeah, but you'll get a rhythm of it once you start doing it. Every entrepreneur does. I think I'm quite sure everybody figures out their own boxes, their own strategy of managing it.
Yeah, yeah. because you have seen this multiple perspective of entrepreneur and also the incubator, can you share some of the things like what could go wrong for an entrepreneur as an individual? Of course, you have your team and you have to take care of these various segments that you spoke about. So as an individual, what could go wrong?
Yeah, so it's a quite a bit of a challenge for every entrepreneur globally and also entrepreneurs in India. It starts with your own insecurities, your own what you wish for. So what happens is many a times you become an entrepreneur for several reasons. Each reason is different for different people. Some want money, some want fame, some want just a satisfaction, some want to be a boss, their own boss, they don't want a boss. I mean, you will find all this talked about by different people. I've seen this also. uh, Different people are driven by different topics. So as an entrepreneur, when you start off, you will not get any of these because you're starting from a not. It's almost zero. You're starting from zero to make something happen. So a lot of people have to have patience, perseverance for results to come. See, there is startups are also glamorized in media to say that suddenly people become unicorns, billionaires, and everything. But that's probably 5 or 10 out of 10,000 of them. The other
Mhm.
99,990 don't become that. So what happens is you always come in with that glamour saying, I'm going to be one of them or I'm going to get one of those. But that may or may not happen with the problem you choose, the thing you do. So that leads to a lot of frustration, a lot of depression for many people because they realize that what they came in to do is not what they are getting. And that can be very disturbing for a lot of people. So, and also that's one problem. The second problem which also happens is many startups start with an idea, which is a wrong way to start.
Okay.
Idea may not have a problem which is solving. It may be a brilliant thought in somebody's mind, but there may not be a customer for it. I'm guilty also of it. First, my a couple of my initial ideas and startups which I've done were all driven by my own ideas. Like I thought this is good, this is what it should be because I understand everything else. It was all about me centric. I mean, I thought I understand what it is, but
Okay.
there is a good saying by Steve Blank which says, "No ideas survive the first customer contact." You actually go and make something and show it to your customer, and he'll tell you, "This is not solving any of my problem." I mean, it's great. What you've done is great, but it's not useful for me. I mean, why is it useful for me? And that's your first biggest realization when you realize that you have to be humble. You are
Mhm.
not the innovator. Actually, only when you understand the problem, you become the innovator. You cannot be
Okay.
doing it the other way around. You can't go and say, I have a brilliant idea, I will solve your problem. You actually have to understand his problem and then become the innovator. So that learning is a big eye opener for many entrepreneurs. What happens is it breaks their ego very badly when they go with all things done saying, I know exactly what it is, I'm the best innovator, but then customers don't come to you or nobody wants it. That's a huge ego breaker because then you learn to be humble to say that I don't need to necessarily know everything. I need to listen to customers. I think that journey is also very, very different for difficult for entrepreneurs because it's about being humble now.
Mm.
One is really being humble, and second, you need to learn why are you doing this. If you have your motive right as an entrepreneur, if it is money, fame, or anything, you need to figure that out. If not, it can be very, very demotivating. It can be a lot of people get into depressive mode. But I would say, on a whole, not every entrepreneur is like that, but good amount of them go through these phases to learn on their own that what they thought is not what they have to do. Probably it's a huge you unlearning and learning. I think that's what the entrepreneur's journey is. And one last thing, Ashok, just to mention, is also family and peer pressure. So what
Okay.
happens is, 10 years back, if you become an entrepreneur, people thought something is wrong with you. I've had that problem for several years because people said you are in such a great role in a big company. Why would you do that? Something is wrong with you. Or they thought maybe the company fired me. I mean, there were different people who thought different things. They never thought that it is by my own choice. It is not somebody is forcing me to do it. So that was then. But now the expectation is that if you are family and friends, I'm talking about that if you're an entrepreneur, you will be a billionaire. Now the expectation is gone the other way around. both are bad, because you need to let the entrepreneur be what he is. Though family and friends are a big support system, sometimes they also create a wrong expectation. I think
Mhm.
an entrepreneur has to manage that also. That though they are a support, the biggest support for you, you also need to push away their aspirations to say, "Leave me. I mean, I need to do what I have to do."
In that same line, like what are the important decisions that an entrepreneur, I mean, can go wrong because of this peer pressure and they're not being themselves?
Yeah, so like I said, one is a lot of them start to chase capital, because it's not about value for the customer anymore or for the problem. They'll go towards the valuation, because the more your company valuation is, you look better. Whether you actually are solving the problem or not, if your company is now suddenly 10 million or 100 million valued, you being a founder, now you are a millionaire. From zero, you are now something else. So a lot of people move away from actual creating some value for customers or solving some real problem to actually valuation. I'm not judging any in any way, but I think that is something which makes people move towards that. I've also seen a lot of people probably taking shortcuts to move towards these topics, because you want to do it fast. You don't want to do it. It may take a long time sometimes. I mean, I've seen sometimes it takes years for you to get that success, but sometimes people take a shortcut because you want it in a very quick way. But my biggest concern is moving away from value to valuation. I think that's something entrepreneurs should not do, because you'll be better known for what you have done than how much valuation was. I think that at short period, yeah, people will remember it, but the impact you will make as an entrepreneur is when you create a value, when you create something really meaningful. The value, I mean, the impact is for a much longer time. I mean, that's my view. I mean, different people may have different perspectives, but that's my perspective.
Right, right. It sounds very natural because you have been into both of the shoes. So, how about the team members' path? Because they are part of the startup journey. So, what are the pain areas that they go through because they are traveling along with the startup culture and not a big organization?
Yeah, so there are two key players in a team. When you said team, one I call them as co-founders, uh, the early team, the two, three who come together to build it, and second, I would say the team itself, the rest of the gang which joins in to this journey. I'll first talk about the general team, and then I'll talk about the founders, the co-founders, because both are important. The team itself, for me, I see it as a family, because one, as long as you don't carry them along with you in the journey, nobody feels for the journey along with you. I mean, sorry, what I'm trying to say is, they need to feel part of the family. Only then they'll give you your more than 100% in your own journey, because you should also make it their journey. That's what I was trying to say, that they also need to see that every small success, every small thing what we do is also everybody's success. Having said that, uh, most of them face a huge challenge. Now they come into a company which is extremely small, with probably no facilities as in a big company, probably paying half of what a big company will pay, or even less than half of what the big company will pay, uh, and very unsure situation, because you don't know how long this company will exist, how big the company will become, and lastly, they have to work probably two times as their counterparts in a regular company. Getting half the salary, they probably work two times. Now, you need to choose your team in a way that people who come in should enjoy this journey. There are a lot of people who are hungry learners. That is, they want to learn a lot, and even if they stay with you for 1 year or 2 year or something, they learn, they contribute in a big way, because they've come there to do more, because they understand that in a startup you can do probably two times, three times more than what you can do in a regular company, where probably you're writing one module there, you will come and build the whole thing here, the whole system.
Mhm.
So I've seen a lot of them get very excited with this opportunity to learn more, do more. But at the same time, after some time, it also burns them, because they realize that they're doing two times the work but getting half the pay. So then it starts to really hurt them, unless the company is growing. If the company is growing and they see the company is growing, and many a times, I mean, I believe in ESOPs, share the make them also part of the journey. When they know that the company is growing, they latch on with you because they know they are part of that success. So make them part of that success. But many times, if the company is struggling, which every company will go through, every startup will go through, some of them become very, very disturbed because then they realize that I need stability in my life. I need a stable job. Even if I'm not learning, I need to go. So this will be a wave. This will be a wave where people come, people go. I mean, we've been lucky enough. A lot of them have been with us for a long time, because probably they are seeing the success, the learning, what is still going on. Though we may not be the paymasters like every other large company, but we don't pay less, but we don't pay more. We just pay what the market standards are. But most people are with us for the journey, are with us for that, and I mean, we all appreciate. We are like a family. It's not an entrepreneur now. Everybody is part of the journey. Everybody is part of the company. I think that feeling will hopefully keep it for a longer time. So that's one aspect from a team point of view. So they have a lot of pressure to go out and earn more, but at the same time they have probably that bond which keeps them in the company, and at the same time the opportunity to learn more than what they would do in a larger company. But more important is for an entrepreneur the co-founders. You will realize very soon. I've been a solopreneur, solo entrepreneur, but most of the time when you're solo, the journey is good because you are the only one. You can decide a lot of things and you can do a lot of things. But to scale, really, it's quite difficult for a single entrepreneur to scale because you can't do everything. Though you can time box yourself, you still can't do everything. And at the same time, investors also always look for a team of founders, not one founder, because again they look for the same thing, because you realize that one person cannot do everything, so you need at least two, three being optimal.
Okay.
So for me, the co-founders are like your spouse or a marriage, I mean, partner. The reason is you will probably end up spending more time with them than with your family because you are in it for a long time. So if you don't get the right ones along with you, uh, the journey is not so good, because you may start, but very soon you will realize that everything else is fine, but your journey with your co-founder is the biggest issue because you are not gelling along in doing things. If you look at statistically, bulk, I think, I don't know the number, probably it's more than 50% of the startups wind up because of the co-founder conflict. Because the two partners, two co-founders cannot get along, the company winds down. It has nothing to do with the problem, it has nothing to do with the customers, nothing to do with the team. Most of it winds up because of the co-founder conflict, because the two partners, two co-founders have a difference of opinion, they don't see eye to eye, and the company falls apart. So I think it's extremely important to get the right partner with you, right co-founder with you, because with whom you can go for a longer run. So it's as good as marriage for me. I usually use saying it's like a dating. You need to find out the partner, your co-founder, like a dating partner, right? I mean, you need to gel well along, and it becomes more like a marriage. You need to stay for a long time. So co-founder is important, team is important. Both have their own different journey. In co-founder, you need to respect each other, give yourself that slice of responsibility so that you don't overstep on each other. Team, you need to make them part of the family, part of the growth, and only then both will gel along.
Yeah, rightly said. As you pointed, proving that I'm here for a long run. That is a critical element, even if you wanted to sell out your ideas or bring in more investment.
Yeah, absolutely. You need to get that right.
Right, nice. So, for anyone who has started and having a minimal viable product, and he's now thinking that this is the time I need to approach an incubation platform where I can get more support and I can think of a scaling factor so that he's making a balanced effort for his teammates as well who are dependent on him. So, what kind of incubation platforms are available? Is it like all are same, or they have to be specific? Like if you are doing a drone startup, you need to approach these kind of incubation platform. If it is an IoT, these platforms are well suited. Should it be like a more specific, or people should go with a generic incubation platform? And what are they, if you can elaborate?
Yeah. So I think India now has a wonderful ecosystem, which was over the last 10 years, I think it has been built by many different people. There is a very lovely ecosystem out there which can support you. So what I would say is it depends also on what kind of an entrepreneur you are. So a lot of people are young innovators. Some have a lot of industry experience and then become innovators, entrepreneurs. So slightly the journeys are slightly different for both. If you're a young innovator, my recommendation always is that look for incubators. There are academic incubators, there are generic incubators, where incubator means they actually give you a longer run to be with them, up to 18 months and beyond. I think most academic institutions have it. IIM Bangalore has it, IISc has it, triple ITs, IITs. They are called incubators because the idea is they expect younger innovators to come in a bigger way, and they are more still young. They need guidance. So the academic institution can provide through their faculty, mentor network. They give you a lot of support, place, bit of a capital. Also, that's one of the early capital they can get, but it's not big capital. But I think it will be sufficient for you to run for 18 months, 12 to 18 months, because most of these incubators keep you for a year to year and a half. The idea is that you still only have an idea, not beyond that anything. So they will help you to bring it up to speed to make a product solution fit or some MVP or a first version. They will help you. So most younger guys, I would encourage them to go to incubators because they will give you a longer rope to do it. I mean, it doesn't stop the experienced ones to go to incubators, but the
Okay.
only difference is that probably many of the things what the incubator teaches you as an experienced professional, maybe you have access to it very easily. I mean, you can reach
Okay.
out to your network and get it. You can reach out some capital you will already have. The industry mentors you will already get. You will have connects with the industry. You can already pick people's brain and get that, which the incubator will also do. So that's one journey. Accelerator is once you have a MVP and you want to now get a product market fit. That is, you want to really reach out to many customers. Is when the accelerator comes up. I think that's why the word accelerator also gets used, because the idea here is that they will help you to accelerate. So
Was
here there are generic ones where you can go. There are some generic B2C accelerators, B2B accelerators. But more importantly, I would say if you are working on a retail space, now Target and many retail large companies have their own accelerators in India. Now, I would target those retail accelerators. The reason is they will give you the exact customer segment, industry segment where you will get the right experts, right customers to try your product. Or if you're working in an IoT, go towards a Cisco's Launchpad or Google doing something. Don't go to different ones. I mean, if you are a very strong IoT based company, don't go and try to do it in a retail accelerator. The applicability might be in a small way, but not too much. So you need to figure out which one. Be choosy. Go to the right one. So there are many different accelerators. So you need to choose which one you should go to. Not go to anybody and everybody. Then beyond incubators and accelerators, there are also the corporate platforms. Like AWS has its own platform. Microsoft for startups. Then there are NASCOM runs its own 10K startup program. NASCOM runs its own IoT accelerator. So these are more industry bodies running where they may not accelerate you in a program way, but by being there, you get exposed to a lot of people who come to those centers, a lot of customers who interact with you, a lot of companies who interact with you. So I would say you need to choose which platform you want to be. Beyond that, there are also a lot of professional bodies like the TIE, NASCOM itself. There are many others. I think uh, there are a couple more who also do talks and programs, events. They don't run an incubator or accelerator, but they have a mentoring programs and they have startup programs all through the year. You should become a member of one of them. I think Head Start Network is one of them. TIE. There are many of them. So you attend those events. So also what
Mhm.
happens is, even though you're not part of an incubator and accelerator, you still get access to resources. You still get access to mentors. But you have to structure it. That's your own way of doing it. So I would mix all three based on where you are. If you're very, very early, I would end up in an incubator. But if I have
Okay.
figured out everything, if I'm a little more experienced folk, I would go for an accelerator or for this TIE, NASCOM, Head Start kind of a program where I can structure my own interactions and my own help. So a lot of things being done in India. It's a very vibrant ecosystem. You just need to pick the right way. Don't try to do everything. Don't try to be in a wrong place. That will not help you. Pick which
Yeah.
one will help you.
Great. Thank you. How do you see this adoption of these various innovations coming, both be it IoT or drones? How do you see from your perspective, like, are they going to actually democratize India in the technology and also from the user acceptance point of view. Let us take agriculture as an example and electric vehicle for that reason. How do you see from how long it will take?
I've been part of working on IoT for over a decade now, which was called M2M when I used to work in Nokia Siemens Networks way back in 2009-10. So I was trying to even sell and work on the first M2M solutions for smart switches, smart meters at that time in India. It's been a decade. We have come a long way from an M2M network to what we call as IoT devices now. A lot of IoT startups, IoT companies solving, whether it's agri, whether it is industrial IoT, whether it is automotive, the connectedness is coming up in a way. Even from home automation, HVAC automation, all of them are in place now, but these are still, I would call it as early market, early adopters. See, there are most companies trying to use sensors, trying to bring the data and the IoT networks to make things work better, but not yet in a massive scale, because the cost of doing it is a delta cost, which people are still debating the ROI coming out of that. So you will find large companies working on IoT, small startups working on IoT. So both are trying at this time. Uh, uh, the network itself is still not, connectivity itself is still not up to the mark with the current our 2G and the 4G network. 5G promises this in the next 1 to 2 years. Maybe India is 2 years later. My understanding is all the connectedness, whether it's from your home to your office to everything around you, will probably take another decade plus when that really happens in a massive scale. But at a smaller scale, the adoption will start in the this decade. From 21 onwards, you will see industrial IoT probably will be the first ones to pick up. Automotive will be the next one. Agriculture is happening, but the ROI there is only for large farming. For small farmers, it doesn't really create an ROI at this moment. So there is a big forum called IoT Forum for India, where all the IoT companies are working now on the IoT topic. So I think there is a big movement, but my personal opinion, it's probably 2030 is when we will maybe see. We will not talk about IoT. You will not ask me a question on IoT because IoT will be ubiquitous everywhere. So you will not be asking me a question on will IoT be there. No, it is everywhere, but that's probably 10 years away. Same with drone. I think drone technologies are being used in multiple applications, but I would say that is still even more early stage than what IoT is right now. Maybe that is it will take another half a decade to really come into mainstream. So we are talking about things of maybe 2030s where all of them become normal. This decade is where we will see them grow.
Great. I guess by that time we will also have these battery researches on be it lithium ion or the graphene based researches that are happening now.
Correct.
The supportive system around ecosystem will be strong so that all the devices coming out for longer run.
Yeah, see, one of the main thing is the battery life at this time with IoT and drone, right? Because if you have an IoT device, you want it to run for several years without changing a battery, and several years connecting to the cloud or connecting to the edge without draining the battery. And that is what 5G promises, that network will support you. The battery technology has to change. I mean, sensing is only one part of it, but then you need to sense for a long time. So I think I would say it is a decade from now. That's my guess. I may be wrong, but my guess says it's a decade from now.
Great. Coming to the end, what are the tips and suggestions that you would like to tell our young entrepreneurs or be it college students or school students? Your one suggestion that actually they can take and start working on that.
Yeah, I mean, for I worked very closely with several university students over last probably 5 to 6 years. There are two things which I really noticed. One is they're brilliant, they're world class in terms of what they can think and what they can do. But most of them have this till their final year of studies, and then suddenly, when a job market opens up and then there is a job on their hand, they drop their innovations, they drop what they want to do because they all feel I have to be in a stable job. Thanks to again parental pressure and peer pressure, most of them drop it. I mean, this having said this, because I'm not saying it is right or wrong, but I feel a lot of innovators are lost into the corporate world because of this particular factor. So that's the reason many universities and others are creating incubators where
Okay.
we don't want incubators to be filled with people who say, I didn't get a job, so I want to be in an incubator. That is not going to help us. But the best of them who really have the right solutions for problems should be the ones who get into the incubators. So I encourage youngsters, if they really have, I mean, not everybody should have it. If you really have a cool idea, a cool innovation which can solve a big problem, don't end up being in a corporate job and all through keep saying that I could have done something. Uh, Join an incubator, nothing will happen as a youngster. Solve that problem. I think he can make an impact to the country, to globe in a very big way. I mean, he can do that, but he or she. But that's my only urge, because all my time I've seen brilliant innovators come final year, they end up in a corporate job. The moment they get a good offer in hand, they say, I'm checking this and I'm going away there. That's one advice. I mean, if you have something, please go for it. Don't drop it at that stage. And second is, I think I always advise. I think I talked about it. Don't go behind investors day one. Go behind customers. If you can fix your customers, if you know, if you have solved it in the right way, I think you will grow in a much bigger way. And third is, don't look at it in a short run. Look at it in a longer run. Uh, Money will come. You will make a big impact. And I've seen a lot of success stories coming from our own engineering colleges and other colleges where they've turned out to be very successful entrepreneurs. But the percentage is very small. But probably that percentage becoming bigger could solve a lot more problem around us, because the youngsters come with really a lateral thinking and different way of solving problems than a set experienced person. So that's always encouraging to encourage them to go ahead and solve the problem.
Okay, nice. That's a pretty good advice. So I'll go with a rapid fire round. Listed on some
Sure, sure,
questions.
sure.
Yeah. So one global leader you follow.
Steve Jobs was somebody whom I used to always follow, but now I have a lot more interest in little cliched Elon Musk is what we all follow. So I just follow him, but I admired Steve Jobs in terms of what he did.
Great. Yeah. The book that you suggest for our listeners.
Zero to One is a good book for by Erica Rice. I think they should read that book. It just helps how to create the first set of value.
Nice. And your childhood activity that you still wanted to do.
Yeah, so I always loved photography as a youngster. I still do, but with all the other things what I do, that's one thing which I give the lowest priority in my box. So that I always regret, because that's my passion, but I give it the lowest times. That's something I love. I mean, if I could give more time.
Nice. Yeah. Given a superpower for one day, what would you ask?
Nothing really. I always thought about it, but I really don't want any superpower. I'm happy the way it is. Nothing much. I think we should just let the things be the way it is, and then things go fine.
Okay. So your top wish in your bucket list.
Yeah, top wishes. I think at least right now, very focused on what we are doing in electric mobility. So a kind of a clean mobility, less polluted cities is kind of a dream right now. To say, will it really happen? Can it happen? I'm playing a small role in the whole ecosystem towards it, but keeping in mind our future generations, I think a cleaner cities, cleaner mobility is one of the contributor to that. Would be a good thing to have. I think a clean fresh air is much better than the polluted air we have now.
Nice. And what would you like to be remembered for by your followers?
To be a simple, honest man, and that's it. Nothing more. And people who actually love spending time with me. I think that's something which I always want them to remember about me.
Okay, keeping it simple. Nice. Yeah. So what's your favorite subject in school?
Physics was my favorite subject in school.
Okay.
I think I used to love, because it is all about making things happen and seeing how things work. Though chemistry also gives you that feeling, but physics was all about the physical objects, so that always excited me to see how things work.
Okay, okay. And the last question. You are mentoring a lot of institutes and the startups. So who is your favorite mentor and coach?
Yeah, so I mean, it's sometimes different people, but usually it's my wife, because
Okay.
I end up talking to her maybe the most than anybody else in terms of what happens.
Okay.
Though she may not know anything what I'm doing in terms of what I do, but sometimes she knows me more than anybody else. So what happens is her advice is more to me than to the problem or the situation. Uh, so that helps me to think in a much more focused way, because she's not advising me on the problem, but actually she's advising me. So that gives a big difference.
That's great. Yeah, wonderful having your time, Ravi. Last few words, like people who wanted to know about Numocity and you, where do this go for?
Yeah, I mean, Numocity website, numocity.com would be the website. I think knowing to know about me, LinkedIn is the best way. If you search for me on LinkedIn, you will find me. And most of the time, that's where I update whatever is going on. So LinkedIn and our website would be the best place to look about us.
Great. Yeah, nice talking to you. Thank you for your time, Ravi.
Hey,
Thank you.
thanks a lot, Ashok. Thanks for having me in this session, and I hope it was informative. I mean, I enjoyed talking to you, so I hope people who listen to your podcast also enjoy what we discussed.
Thank you, Ravi. Okay, we are at the end of the episode number 1. Thank you very much, Ravi, for coming on and sharing the insights. And to our listeners, you can find out the episode summary in the description. Until we catch up soon, stay tuned, be motivated. Thank you.